Good evening and welcome to the April 26th meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. We are glad to have those of you that are with us, and particularly we're glad to have so many young people in our midst tonight. We're glad to have those of you that are watching at home, viewing in, and you'll see some of these young people before the night's over. I'll remind board members, well, no, I don't have to. We're not in there. Okay, I'll forget that. But I will tell you at this time, we'd like to ask you to please stand as we have Sophia Perez, a fourth grade student at Reeves Rogers, and Marissa King, a fifth grade student at Salem Elementary, to lead us in our pledge, followed then by our moment of silence. And now our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moment of silence. Thank you. Board members, you have previously received a copy of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you very much. Communications, Ms. Trail.
Good evening, Board.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
I will start with our normal communications, and we'll just keep on talking about these wonderful children. So Mitchell Nielsen would like to thank First Baptist Church on Castle Street for continuously blessing them with snacks, school supplies, prayers, and other much needed and greatly appreciated items. They are a great community partner for Mitchell Nielsen. Bradley Academy would like to invite you to their Math and Literacy Family Night. That's going to be this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Bradley also would like to thank their community partners for helping make this night a success. First Baptist, World Outreach, University Barbershop, and Wilson Bank are their partners for that night. We want to take time to congratulate our Earth Day winners. If you were there Saturday, you saw the amazing posters for Earth Day, so congratulations to first place winner, Victoria Guevara from Bradley Academy. Second place, Adrienne Lewis from Discovery. Third place, Audrey Johnson of Discovery. And then we had additional Murfreesboro City School winners. Most unique poster material was Shalene Bazile from Scales. Best Family Bonding, Lucy Jordan from Discovery. Most creative, Madeline Basham from John Pittard. And most likely to make you smile, Kai Owusu from Discovery. It was a great contest, and I want to tell you that there were so many posters in our office. It was amazing. It was fun, and I am so glad I did not have to judge that. I'm going to do a shout out to Miss Tori Carr, who took care of that for the school district. So thank you, Tori. April is Volunteer Appreciation Month. MCS is definitely better because of our volunteers and our partners. We did have a luncheon for our volunteers last week, so once again, we want to thank all of our volunteers who come into our schools and into our central office to help us succeed. The City Schools Foundation has added 3 members to our foundation board. New board members include Essence Briscoe, Kevin Pascoe, and Jim Calder. Our executive board has also changed over for the year. Our board for the coming year will be David Scott as chair, Dr. Joe Fays as vice chair, Justin Burris for treasurer, and Stephanie Roach as secretary. Also want to do a quick little shout out to one of our Scales elementary teachers, Sarah Bransford. She was inducted into the 10th Region's Girls Basketball Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago. So we love when our teachers are getting recognized outside of our district as well. And speaking of that, before I turn it over to Dr. Duke, I do want to also do a really quick shout out and congratulations to Dee Dee Potter. Dee Dee was named, Dee Dee is here, one of our art teachers, is serving on the Cheekwood Teacher Advisory Board, which is a great honor for her as well as Murfreesboro City Schools. So congratulations, Ms. Potter.
Absolutely.
unless you have any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Duke.
All right, Dr. Duke?
Well, good evening, board. We have an exciting recognition tonight for some of our very special MCS students who you see with us here in the audience. We are in collaboration with the City of Murfreesboro Cultural Arts team. We have presented our 32nd annual art show in the Rotunda. The exhibit has been on display in the Rotunda since March 1st and will be on display through this Thursday. Each MCS art teacher could display up to 2 pieces of art per grade level, resulting in over 150 pieces of art adorning the walls of the Rotunda. Each piece displayed has a school-level winning art piece. Tonight, we are thrilled to highlight the winners of our district competition. The art was judged by an outside group of individuals with ties to the Murfreesboro art community using the following judging criteria: interpretation of theme, creativity and originality, presentation and craftsmanship, and overall impressions. And we are so proud. I know we've enjoyed seeing the art in the Rotunda for our meetings, and so we're so glad to welcome here. And we're going to recognize our winners. Before we go to our winners, I am going to ask our art teachers who are here to please kind of step forward. I know you're in the back, so our art teachers who are here who do such a great job with our art students. So thank you so much to our art teachers. And I'm going to hand out these certificates as Ms. Trell reads the names.
Okay, I think I have everyone who is here, and if I miss someone, we're going to back up and get them. So let's see. Don't drop the certificate. First, and we're going to ask all of our students to step up whenever your name is called, okay? So Miss Emerson Brownlee from Reeves Rogers is the first place kindergarten winner. Congratulations. Miss Rhodes Fisher from Northfield Elementary is our kindergarten second place winner. Dr. Duke, I think you missed the photo op there. Mr. Hudson Stroop from Overall Creek is our third place kindergarten winner.
All right.
The art was so pretty, just so amazing. From first grade, we have Addison Akunu from Hobgood Elementary. She received first place in first grade. And Mr. Rowan Napier from Cason Lane is the third place first grade winner. And as I turn around, okay, this is Miss Savannah Lee. Miss Savannah is from Reeves Rogers, and she is the second place second grade winner. Miss Sophia McNeil is from Irma Siegel Elementary, and she is the third place second grade winner. Miss Gianna Langley is from Cason Lane. She is the third place third grade winner. And Miss Peyton Davis is from Hobgood Elementary. She is the first place third grade winner. So we're going to move to fourth grade. Miss Chloe Edgel is from Overall Creek, and she is the first place winner in fourth grade. Miss Ruby Denton is from Irma Siegel, and she is the second place winner in fourth grade. Moving to fifth grade, Miss Corrine Malcolm is from Overall Creek, and she is the first place winner in the fifth grade category.
All right.
Miss Lauren Saltman is from John Pittard Elementary. She is the second place winner in the fifth grade. And moving to sixth grade, Miss Bella Zumda, sorry about that, Cason Lane Elementary, second place in the sixth grade category. And we have one last winner, and that is our best of show. So congratulations to Miss Morgan Lee from Hobgood Elementary for being best of show this year. Now, Congratulations to all of you. Your artwork has been seen by thousands in the Rotunda, and I know some of it will be moving on to MTSU as well. Did I overlook any child who is a winner tonight? Yeah, every child is a winner. Any child with the art that I looks like we did it, so yay.
All right, Mr. Campbell,
Yes, sir.
how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good.
With your permission, I'd like to move on to our Best of MCS recognition.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So tonight we are so proud to recognize one of our amazing substitutes as our Best of MCS. We know that it's critical we have excellent adults in front of our students each day, and when our teachers are out of the building for various reasons, it is our substitutes who step up and fill this role. Tonight we are pleased to recognize one of the best. I'm going to ask her to come forward. Miss Darlene Harris is with us. Miss Darlene Harris started with us in January of 2021, and this year alone, she has subbed for us 118 days.
Whoa.
You didn't know that, did you? With 111 of those being at Northfield Elementary. So to put that in perspective, that means so far this year she has subbed 78% of our school year. She's been a sub in our classrooms. Miss Campbell, the principal at Northfield, nominated her for this recognition because of this outstanding work she's done. Miss Campbell stated that Miss Harris has been the most reliable substitute that any teacher or building administrator could ask for. Ms. Harris never complains, even when asked to fulfill a role that may be different than what she signed up for. She has taken the time to build rapport with teachers and relationships with students in the building. As we know, unfortunately, this year we had a teacher pass away at Northfield, and Ms. Campbell said that Ms. Harris quickly jumped into the role of a caring teacher to help grieving students. She has made the process for the students to transition when hiring a new teacher and has helped the new teacher the first few days. Ms. Harris is not only a substitute, according to Ms. Campbell, she is an important part of the Northfield school family. She is reliable, she has a calm demeanor, and a great heart. So, Ms. Harris, we have to have strong substitutes like you to have an effective school system, and we are so thankful for what you do, and we want to say thank you for representing the best of Murfreesboro City schools. Mr. Campbell, before we move on, I think it may be appropriate to let our art students, if they would like to leave, be dismissed when you're ready.
If they would like to leave, they're welcome to stay. But if you'd like to go, well, maybe you need to get to bed for school tomorrow. I don't know. Well, we do thank you very much for being here with us. Not only the students, but also the parents as well. Thank you. Come back anytime. Good to talk to you, John. Thank you.
Well, you know how to clear a room.
I kind of doubt it. And then there were none.
Right.
Boy, you cleared this bunch out there, didn't you?
Won't be the first time.
All right, next on our agenda is to recognize our Milken Educator Award winner.
Yes, sir. As members of the board are aware, we had a very special honor a few weeks ago when Governor Bill Lee and Commissioner of Education Dr. Penny Schwinn joined us at Black Fox for an important announcement on literacy. However, what we know now is that was not the real reason for their visit. They were there to surprise one of our own teachers, Miss Raven Brooks, with the honor of being a Tennessee recipient of the Milken National Educator Award. Miss Brooks is the first Murfreesboro City teacher to receive this honor and one of just over 60 educators who will receive this award across the nation this year. It truly is an honor and amazing accomplishment, and in just a moment I'm going to ask Miss Brooks and her principal, Miss Strevel, to come to the podium to be recognized. but I did want to take a brief moment to explain the history and significance of this award. The Milken Educator Award is one of the most prestigious and highest honors in education and was dubbed the Oscars of Teaching by Teacher Magazine. It was established in 1987, and the Milken National Educator Awards were created to attract, reward, and retain the highest caliber professionals in the education profession. The award specifically targets early to mid-career teachers and principals for their already impressive achievements, and more significantly, for the promise of what they will accomplish in the future. One of the mottos of the Milken Education Award is that they find you, you can't find them. So this means that the search process for the educators is extremely secretive, and the person even doing the nomination doesn't know what they're nominating the person for. Recipients are honored with $25,000 in unrestricted awards. And since Tennessee joined the Milken Educator Award program, 66 Tennessee educators have been awarded a total of $1.65 million. So Raven, Ms. Brooks, we are incredibly proud of you. I'm going to ask you to come forward with Ms. Strebel, and we are so thankful to call you part of the MCS team.
All right, I guess I'm going to start. Raven is an amazing teacher. She is exactly what the best of MCS represents. She is that teacher that sets super high expectations for all of her students. One of the greatest things about Raven, I think, is when you go into her classroom, there are so many different levels of learning, but you would never know that. She may move over with a quick proximity move or anything like that, but Raven is constantly thinking about all learners in her classroom, meeting the needs of them. She creates an amazing environment and culture in her room. But not only that, she is so positive. I know she just radiates that positivity and just such a great example to our teachers and our students, and we are just so proud of her.
Thank you so much, Ms. Strebel. Good evening, board. Thank you for having me here today. I'm just so thankful to be here, and we've got Dr. Duke. Thank you for having me. Central office staff, the lead of our educators, my own administrators that I care about so much. Thank you to my amazing second grade team. I'm so happy for our teachers here at Black Fox, as well as all the districts, all the teachers here in the district. You know, we are a district full of strong teachers who care so much about what they do. So although I am the recipient of this award, I truly believe that this is an award for all of us. We have so many strong, amazing teachers, and so it's very exciting to get to be highlighted as part of MCS. So thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Because I was there that day, and you know, you can hear a lot of scuttlebutt things. You were actually out on leave?
Yes.
And Ms. Strobel asked you to come back. Did she tell you why? I'm sure she did not.
She did. She told me that the Commissioner of Education was going to come back and do a second visit for Black Fox, and that she was going to be pushing out a new reading initiative. And she's like, would you mind coming and sitting on the board? The Commissioner is going to speak to us. And I was like, oh, I'd love to. Like, I'm so honored. You want me to do it? Of course. So the whole time that the presentation is going on, I'm looking around like, whoa, somebody here is going to win this award. This is amazing. And I'm like looking around at all of my fellow teachers in the gym, and I'm like, this is so cool. Somebody's going to get this. And I'm like, because, I'm here to speak with the commissioner, so that's why I'm here. So I was very surprised that it was me when it was time. I was kind of frozen there because I was like, I know why I'm here. So it was really exciting.
Well, I think that just exemplifies what Ms. Strobel has said about your commitment and your togetherness for your faculty and you, because you came back not knowing who was going to be awarded what, but just to help them celebrate. And I think that's very, very high mark for you. Thank you very much, and I think it's congratulations from all of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would be remiss if I did not point out that Raven's mother also works for the school district.
I was getting ready to say, I recognize
So
her.
we have a whole generation, or second generation of great Murfreesboro educators. Ms. Trace is a guidance counselor for us at Hopgood.
That's right. I did not know that was my
All right, members of the board, we have a motion to approve the consent items as printed.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, let's see. Action items. Dr. Duke?
Yes, sir. Our first item up is the approval of several charter school policies that we're going to be looking at tonight. Currently, MCS has one policy regarding the operation of charter schools in MCS. However, due to the possibility that we may encounter applications, we are recommending the approval of 6 additional policies. It is important to note that we do not have any current charter applications that have been submitted to MCS, and these approvals are proactive. We are recommending the approval and adoption of all of the following proposed policies. Policy 1.900 governs authorizing principles and outlines the board's expectation that charter schools be high quality and ensure public transparency. Policy 1.902 governs charter school agreements between MCS and the charter organization. Policy 1.903 governs oversight of the charter school and outlines how MCS will oversee any charter that it may authorize. Policy 1.904 governs how MCS will intervene should a charter school that the board has authorized violate the agreement. Policy 1.905 outlines the renewal process, which is required to occur every 10 years. And Policy 1.906 outlines the charter school revocation process for any charter schools that MCS may authorize. All 6 of these TSBA model policies are aligned with state law, and the language matches that of TSBA, and we are recommending approval as presented, and we're happy to answer any questions regarding these.
All right, members of the board, you received these earlier, and I assume that you've had an opportunity to, I'm sorry, Ms. Taylor, yes, ma'am.
Before we go into the action items, I just wanted to point out that you did not vote on the consent items. It comes before the action items on the agenda.
Oh,
I thought we did.
I thought we did.
Okay.
Did.
Okay. I heard the vote on the agenda, but I didn't hear the
Oh, I thought that was,
consent
I thought we
items.
did consent too, but I could be
think-
wrong.
Yeah,
did.
I remember doing
Okay,
consent.
just making sure.
Okay.
Keep us straight.
All right, now, back to the action items. I don't know what I was saying.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the policies as they have been presented.
I have a question.
On the charter
Yes,
policy, is that right? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Barton, second. Now, we have a question. Mr. Ballard?
So I wanted to be sure, all of these policies, as we're adopting them, are really written by the Tennessee School Board Association, right? So they fully endorse these as actions we should take.
Correct. These are all TSBA model policies.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Severs?
Mr. Chairman, in policy 1900, line 8, line 7, charter schools shall be held accountable for meeting the performance standards and targets set forth in their charter agreement. Now, this is in a policy that we're hoping to adopt, but are we going to be the authority on that? Because further down it says that the school has autonomy. So I guess I'm wondering how we are going to, as a board, hold them accountable. I don't know how that works together with autonomy, as well as they have their own governing boards, which is independent of the board, but the paragraph ahead of it says, charter schools shall be held accountable for meeting performance standards and targets set forth in the charter agreement. Is that for us to do? How does that work? What does it look like? And I know that may be a lot, but I like to tread slowly if we got to go at all.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. So the charter agreement is an agreement that you as a board would, if you were to authorize a charter school, would draft, and the charter school governing board would agree to it. So it would be a contract between Murfreesboro City School Board and the governing board of the charter school. That agreement would outline any performance metrics, how the board would oversee the charter school as an authorizer, the standards that the authorizer has for the governing body. That's what the agreement would all address. As far as the autonomy of charter schools, that speaks to how they will implement instruction, hiring of teachers, just the day-to-day operations of the school. They have autonomy in how they handle that, but the board will set the high-level expectations for performance of the school, and the governing body of the charter school would handle the operational day-to-day on how they accomplish those goals.
So I'm guessing that the idea or the thought is that within that contract, and we're working it out between, I would say, our attorneys and their attorneys, we're going to have the reporting metrics, everything that we expect as far as that's concerned, and then that would be what we use to make sure that the charter school is on track and doing what they say they're going to do.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, other question, Mr. Ballard?
Okay, I understood in the beginning of this discussion about charter schools that the individual school boards, if they rejected that, then it automatically goes to the commission that the governor appointed.
Not automatically. The way the application process works is if a local school board were to deny a charter school application, they have to give reasons for the denial, and then the governing body of the charter school would have a time to cure the reasons for denial, and if the local board would again deny it, then they have the opportunity to appeal to the charter school commission. If the charter school commission upholds the denial, then the school's not allowed to open. If they reverse the local board's decision, then the charter school commission could become the authorizer, or the local board could have the opportunity to say that they would like to be the authorizer of the school. So it's not automatic once there's the first denial.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Barton?
I just want to say, I think it's a good idea for us to be, and I know several other systems are already doing this, to be proactive in setting up guidelines, because it is going to happen. And so we just need to be ready to know how we're going to accept, if we're going to accept, and what our standards are going to be. So I'm glad that we're doing this. And again, just like you said, Dr. Duke, I want to stress this does not mean that we've had application. This is simply getting ready for that process should it happen.
Ms. Goff?
Well, I was just going to say, for the record, I know we have to adopt these because it's the law, but there were some concerns that I had over some of the terminology in the policies, and I know we really can't change that, but like in 1902, the term all eligible kind of concerns me. It's kind of open-ended. You know, they can kind of say who they say qualifies that's eligible. And the other one was 1903, the board shall conduct an annual visit. That's one visit per year. We're in our classrooms, administration's in the classrooms, and they are only going to have one annual visit. That concerns me. I just want it for the record. I'm concerned about some of the policies, but I know we have to adopt them as they are. And, you know, they set their own standards and submit them, and is the bar high or low, or okay, I'll let you answer.
Thank you for those concerns. So the term eligible students, that just means any student that's eligible to go to the school. Just like for Murfreesboro City Schools, eligible students would be K-6 students who live within the Murfreesboro city limits, or Rutherford County students who we accept in through our agreement. That's what the term eligible means. In the state board policy, it's clear that charter schools have to have a random selection process for their applicants, and it has to be open to all students. It has to be publicly verifiable, and they can't establish undue barriers such as parent volunteer hours or things like that to make it a burden for certain students to be able to attend. So the term eligible students just means the same as we would have eligible students. They have to meet the age requirements. Like for kindergarten, you have to be 5 years old by August 15th. Like those types of things are what determines who's eligible. As far as the annual visit, again, I feel like TSBA modeled this after, number one, the Charter School Commission. As them as an authorizer, they do an annual visit. In the law, authorizers are required to do an annual report. So I think the annual visit is to align with the reporting requirements that the authorizer has to do. But it could be at least annually if the board felt like they wanted more leeway to be able to maybe write into their charter school agreements different visitation terms. The only thing to consider with doing that is the administrative burden of having to continually go into the schools, and also in accordance with the State Board of Education's model authorizer policy. Again, because of the autonomy of charter schools, the authorizer would have to respect the autonomy of the charter school, not provide any undue administrative burden to the charter school or undue operational interference. So I think it could say at least annually, and then if Murfreesboro City School Board were to become an authorizer, that could be something that is worked into the charter agreement, how frequent those visits are. So if that would make you feel more comfortable, we could do at least annually and go from there if Murfreesboro City were to become an authorizer.
And when we're talking about visits, school board visits, that does not mean that an individual board member can go and say that's a school board visit. It needs to be a board visit, not individual. Is that correct?
It would have to be I assume, depending on the charter school's policy, they may allow individuals to come and tour the school just like we would if we had an interested party. But the purpose of the visit, as imagined in these policies, is to collect data and to make sure that they're aligned with the performance outcomes and what is put into the charter school agreements to, get financial information or any information that they can't readily get from not visiting the school.
But the charter school cannot deny a student to enter that charter school if it comes before Murfreesboro City School Board, as long as they are a resident of Murfreesboro City. Is that correct? Just like we can't?
Yes, it should be open to all Murfreesboro City students if Murfreesboro City were the authorizer.
If it's a Rutherford County charter school, I guess, that's not the terminology, may not be right, but then that means that they take everybody within the county, which could also incorporate Murfreesboro, Laverne, Eagleville.
No, because Rutherford County is a separate LEA, so if they would not otherwise take Murfreesboro City students, they wouldn't be required to. It's just the same that we have with Rutherford County schools. They can do a waiver to come into our schools. So if a student was not zoned for where the charter school was going to be located, then if they had a zone waiver agreement with another LEA, then the student could attend. But I don't think that a Murfreesboro City student would automatically be entitled to attend a school authorized by Rutherford County. Not all. I think it would depend on, because we do have some students that are like dual zone, maybe those students would be able to attend. But that is a big question for counties that have multiple school zones. But in my opinion, if Rutherford County Schools was the authorizer, then I would say, unless the student was dual zone, like a Barfield type area, then I don't think that they would automatically be able to attend if Rutherford County Schools was the authorizer.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I believe that these particular policies are incredibly important because whether the charter schools are coming from California, Connecticut, or Chattanooga, this puts out there that we have a certain baseline of integrity, of educational standards. We have a baseline of what we expect anyone to even apply to be a charter school. Each individual charter school we can contract with, we can amend, we can change, we can do what we can at that time to react. But if we're not proactive on these issues, we're going to be in a hurry when they come, and they will be coming. So I believe it's prudent to pass these measures tonight.
Mr. Chairman, the other question that I have has to do with our prep work, and I'm appreciative of the policies of beforehand. My question has to do with whether we have a group already together. And I'm not sure if I remembered some discussion when we were having budget last week about either a liaison or somebody that's working on developing what would be our requirements or standards, putting that together. I guess they would be working with you, our attorney, but are we already developing what we think would be some things that we want in that agreement, or is that going to happen later too? If that makes sense.
We have not started working on an agreement, but there are the Charter School Commission, the State Board of Education, the Tennessee Department of Education. This has been going on for a while. There are tons of model policies out there and best practices that we would, of course, consult in drafting an agreement, and of course, working with Murfreesboro City Schools staff to see what are the best practices for curriculum, and things like that, federal programs, servicing EL students, servicing disabled students, things like that, would all go into whatever model policy that we come up with for our charter authorizer. So the short answer is no, we don't have a draft prepared yet, but of course, as we adopt these policies and the conversation has come to the city of Murfreesboro, we've definitely been thinking about these things.
I guess my only concern would be, or request would be, that when the time comes that there is kind of a group effort, which everything we do here is a group effort, but so that we kind of get some varied viewpoints on what that agreement should look like. Not necessarily, nothing against central office, but not necessarily something that central office puts together. I know that there's models out there, which I'm appreciative of. I'm still my concern is for the schools in our area, which are city schools, which are different than county schools. So, and I think, well, you know how to research stuff, but I'm just saying, hopefully we're going to have some type of committee, maybe it will involve some community input. I don't know, but something that's going to look like what we would put forth for Murfreesboro. Everything we do, even when you do zoning, we have a lot of input and from educators, from stakeholders, and everybody. And I just want to kind of put that out there as we move forward, whenever, not if we have to, but when we do.
If I can speak to that, Mr. Chair, I will say, as we think about those steps, and I do want to assure the board, these are conversations we are having in our leadership team on a really frequent basis to make sure we are well prepared. As we think about that process, that first step would be, if we receive an application, before we move into the agreement phase, there's quite a bit of legwork that has to be done just in the approval process. And do they meet the standards of the Charter Commission, the standards of our board? And that'll be the committee we approve tonight for the approval of the application. If it gets to the point where we know that application or we get to that approval process, that agreement would come after all of that work. So we would go through all the approval process, and then we would begin to think about, if approved, what does that agreement need to look like?
Thank you.
And there's already a committee in place. Didn't we get a list of those people?
Yes, it's on the agenda tonight.
I thought.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second, I think, to approve these policies. We've had discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you very much. Thank you to Dr. Duke and Ms. Taylor and all the central office staff and everybody that had anything to do with developing these policies. A lot of work. Okay, we're ready for policy 5600?
Yes, sir. Policy 5.600 governs staff rights and responsibilities. This amendment adds language to our current policy to bring it in line with the TSBA model policy. The incorporated language comes from the Educator's Bill of Rights, which is contained in state law. We are recommending approval as presented, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
So moved.
Second.
That was a motion and a second. All right, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, policy 6.202.
Yes, sir. Policy 6.202 governs homeschools. This amendment updates the language surrounding attendance reporting to better align it with state law and current MCS practices, and we are recommending approval as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Policy 6.206.
205.
I'm sorry, 5.
Yes, sir. Policy 6.205 governs the assignment of students to schools and classes. This amendment adds language from policy 6.206 regarding transfers within the system so that all of our assignment and zoning policies are together. This amendment also adds TSBA model language regarding the new open enrollment law, which we are operating under currently, and we are recommending approval of this policy as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. All in favor say aye.
I have a question. Can we discuss it?
We can. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I rushed it, didn't I? Any discussion?
Yes.
More.
Thanks. I had a question about this one, trying to make sure the different pieces of it sort of work together. So I know part of this now deals with our kind of lottery system with open enrollment, schools that have open spots, but then the language under transfers within the system, that first line, after a student has enrolled in one school within the system, they shall not be permitted to transfer to another unless there's a change in residence of the student's parents or guardians outside the area in which the student enrolled. So I was trying to think that through, that if a student got a spot at a school that was from an open enrollment, so through the lottery system, and then for some reason the parent can't transport them anymore or whatever, would like to go back to their zone school, they haven't moved, they haven't changed their residence. But according to this, it sounds like you can't switch back to school. So is it that you always can go to your zone school no matter what, or how am I misreading that?
You're not misreading it. I think you present an interesting interpretation that we didn't think of in that first draft, but the practice is and the intent is that a student can always go to their zone school. So if they're on a zone waiver and they decide that it's not a good fit or no longer meets their family's needs, then they can go back to their zone school. So we can add language to clarify that on second reading, so it's clear to parents and the board and employees that that's the intent.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, now we have a motion to accept and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Moore. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Got a little ahead of myself. 6.206.
Yes, sir. Policy 6.206 governs transfers within the system, and we are actually recommending the repeal of this policy, as this information is now found in the newly adopted 6.205. So we are recommending a repeal of 6.206.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Suttle. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Policy 6.304.
Yes, sir. Policy 6.304 is our anti-harassment, intimidation, bullying, cyberbullying, and hazing of students policy. This amendment removes language regarding requirements specific to middle schools and high schools that are not relevant to MCS, and we are recommending the approval of this policy as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you. 6.3131.
Policy 6.3131 is our discipline foundation policy for positive behavior of intervention and support. This amendment replaces the reference to the OVEAS bullying prevention program because we are no longer using that program in the district. So we are removing that language just so we can further clarify that. We are recommending the approval of this policy as presented.
So moved.
Ms. Goff, thank you. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Any question or comment, discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. 6.413.
Policy 6.413 addresses the prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions and practices required under the state law. This amendment replaces the reference to a specific course and replaces it with a general reference to the Tennessee Department of Health's concussion training website. We recommend this amendment so the policy does not have to be amended each time the health department changes courses.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Settle. Did I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or discussion? Mr. Ballard?
Thank you. This points to having a concussion protocol, if you will. Maybe I'm reading that in here. Do we have someone certified in concussion protocol?
So all of our coaches that would coach basketball or cheerleading have to go through a concussion training annually.
Okay. So the answer is yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Moore?
I really appreciate making this more general so that we don't have to revisit it anytime there's a change. And so to that end, I'm wondering about including a specific URL as we have here for where the courses can be accessed on the Tennessee, I think it's the Department of Health website. If we could just say something, again, kind of more general instead of the URL to say like, these courses can be found on the Tennessee Department of Health website, just so we don't have to revisit it again if they change something in the link, you know.
Yes, we can do that for second reading as well.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve it on first reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, Charter School Review Team, Dr. Duke.
Yes, sir. Board Policy 1.901 requires that MCS have a board-appointed review team in place in the event that any charter school applications are filed with the school district. The role of the Charter School Review Team is to assist in reviewing and evaluating charter school applications and formally recommending to the board to either approve, reject, or reject with stipulations for reconsideration each application MCS receives. Board Policy 1.901 also requires that the Charter School Review Team be composed of administrative staff from the district, community members, and a member of the board with relevant educational, organizational, financial, and legal experience. We are recommending the following participants to be appointed to the team until December of 2022, at which point this will become part of our annual agenda to review each December. The members we are recommending is Ms. Sherry Arnett as the chair, who is our current Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Ms. Taylor, our Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Amanda Moore, as selected by Board Chairman Mr. Campbell, Dr. Angela Hoosier, who is a community member and professor at MTSU, Dr. Miriam Hill, a coordinator of federal programs, Dr. Kathy Presnell, our coordinator of literacy for 3rd through 6th grade, Mr. Ralph Ringstaff, our assistant superintendent of HR and school operations, Ms. Angela Fairchild, our director of special education, and Ms. Kim Williams, our director of finance. And I think what the board will recognize here from the district perspective, we are putting our senior leadership on this team, those in our district who we feel like have the greatest understanding and historical knowledge of our district and how things operate, and we feel like this will be the best team in conjunction with the board member you selected, Mr. Campbell, to review these applications fairly and present the best information for the board.
Okay.
So moved. Looks like a great team.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Any question or comment?
I have a question.
All right, sir.
Was there a limited number? How do we come at the number that we have? And I'm not saying that there needs to be a parent on here per se. Not that Amanda Moore is not a parent, but I just wanted to know how I think I know why most of the people that are on here. And my question has to do with, how do we come up with did we come up with a number, or did we just say we need somebody from here, 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 and here, and they just all happen to be at central office?
Great question. So we did first look at the policy and see what was required that we had on here. And I also had conversations with some other superintendents who have gone through this charter school process and taken some of their advice as well on who they now have on their team that they maybe didn't have on their team to begin with that they've changed to. And so we used that guidance, we used the policy, and really we wanted to make sure all of our major areas that we know will be part of the charter school application are found on our team.
Because this is to review the application.
Yes,
This
sir.
is not necessarily to set up a charter school, but this is simply for the purpose of reviewing the application to make sure everything is lined up the way it needs to be so that it fits within the parameters, correct?
That is correct. And then this team would be the one that would make the recommendation to the board.
Got you. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion, question? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Zone Waiver Appeal Committee.
Board Policy 6.205 requires MCS to have a zoning appeal special committee to hear zoning and placement appeals made by families. Applications for hearing requests must be made within 10 days after the assignment. Board policy also specifies that at least one board member serve on this special committee. We are recommending the following individuals serve on the Zoning Appeals Special Committee until December of 2022, at which point we will add this as part of our annual agenda to review. The committee members begin with Mr. Wes Ballard, who is the board member selected by Board Chairman Campbell. Elizabeth Taylor, our Assistant City Attorney. She would not be a voting member, but would be there to run the meetings. Mr. Joe Marlin, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, which includes attendance and zone waivers under his provision. He would also not be a voting member since his office is the one that made the original approval or denial. We would have a representative from Special Education based on need, a representative from Human Resources who oversees our staffing and our pupil-teacher ratios, and a school principal who is not associated with that exact zoning application. And we are recommending approval of this committee, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Is this the same number of people on the committee that we've had before?
So I don't know if I can answer that exactly because I was not here when that was done before, but I don't know, Ms. Taylor, if you can answer that.
Well, Wes, you served on it last year. Was there, do
I
you
don't
remember how many of you there were?
I think there were, I think there were 4 of us, maybe 5. Basically the same makeup of areas represented. But my question would be, in this case, with the non-voting members, the voting members come to a total of 4. What do we do with the tie?
Wondered that too.
That was the direction I was going on, asking about the number of members.
So we can add another member if that is what the board would like us to do. The special education representative would only be on there if the student doing the appeal had an IEP and was a special education student. Ms. Taylor and I have had this conversation about the tie, and our practice that we would put in place would, if it was a tie, we would err inside of the family and it would go for an approval. So if the committee tied, then it would be approved.
Okay.
I have a question, Tim.
Settled?
What are the parameters behind this committee?
So the only parameter in board policy is that we have a member of the board.
So I'm wondering, since it's a zoning appeal committee, if it, and I don't know if it can be done, but is it a possibility that we can have parent representation on this, or is that against the policy? Or is that bad business because it's a zoning appeal?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
We want to know whether or not we could have a parent on this committee. My suggestion would be, before Elizabeth answers, is no, because if I'm dealing with your child and I'm on the committee, I know everything there is about your child. And I don't need to know that. Because I don't need to go out and tell Wes what we said in the committee about your child.
It's a privacy issue, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And that's why I asked the question. What is?
Ms. Taylor?
That's why I asked the question. What are the parameters around it when we talk about zoning? Because I know it's a touchy issue. And I guess with parents, of course, there's always going to be that extra excitement when you were dealing with an appeal to a zone, whatever. There may be some, so I appreciate that part of it. Okay.
Do we have a motion to accept the Zone Waiver Appeal Committee?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We have a second.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Summer school grant.
Yes, sir. We are very pleased that Murfreesboro City Schools has received 3 state grants to fund our 2022 Summer Learning Camp program. That includes a Learning Camp grant, a Bridge Camp grant, and a Stream Camp grant. Say that 3 times fast. As required by the Tennessee Department of Education. The combined allocation is $2,119,291, and this will provide summer school salaries for our teachers, instructional supplies, student supplies, transportation, and technology. Support services such as nurses, crossing guards, and school resource officers are included as well. So as I like to tell people, we are running a full school program for these weeks in June. Our program will take place June 6th through June 30th from 7:30 to 12:30, Monday through Friday at Cason Lane, Hobgood, John Pittard, and Northfield. This amendment budgets the new summer learning grants in the general purpose school funds in the correct line items. There are no new revenues and expenditures, and this will have no effect on fund balance. We are recommending approval of this amendment as presented.
We have
So
a
moved,
motion
Mr.
to
Chairman.
Approve the grant.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Settled, have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Any question or comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. General purpose budget.
Yes, sir. We are very pleased tonight to present several budgets that the board has been working on for your approval. So I have just some information to share, and I wanted to present part of this publicly as our first 2 board work sessions were not done in this room, and so that everyone had a little bit of information. And I will make a note for the viewing audience at home that although this is the first time they may be seeing some of this on TV, that our board has worked a collective 8 hours over 2 nights reviewing this material and digging into the budget. So I'm just going to quickly review a few things before we do the approval of our first general purpose budget. As we know, the goals we set out was to first make sure that we prioritize our resources to maximize our outcomes for students, to make sure we're retaining our personnel by continuing to offer competitive salaries and employment benefits, to make sure we're looking at all of the funds we have available, that's our general purpose funds, our ESSER funds, our federal dollars, to address the needs of our district and support the goals of our 5-year plan. And then to also make sure as we address those immediate needs and begin planning for the future that we work to maintain a 7% fund balance, which I'm proud to say we feel like this budget meets all of those goals. So just to remind, how did we get to where we are today? Of course, we started with a lot of stakeholder engagement from principals, from department heads, and from our teacher advisory council. We coordinated with our school board through those budget work sessions that I spoke about over the past 2 weeks. And then, of course, we always checked for alignment to our 5-year strategic plan. Are we accomplishing what we set out to accomplish? And, you know, if we're talking about the 5-year plan, I have to make sure we're all aware that we're continuing to make sure that we're working for our kids to be known, safe, challenged, and empowered. Some of the highlights in our general purpose budget I want to point out is you will see in our community, we'll see a significant increase in staff and capacity building specifically for behavioral supports. In addition, you will see adjusted staffing standards and the use of grant funds to provide more support for our intervention services, specifically 20 new intervention EA positions. And I'll stop there because as we discussed in that meeting, overwhelmingly the feedback we heard was more assistance and allocating more dollars toward behavioral supports and social emotional supports and more support for intervention. And we are proud to say this budget accomplishes both of those. You'll see across the board salary adjustments to help address the cost of living increases, with specific adjustments to our hard-to-staff hourly pay rates to attract and retain more of our essential classified employees, specifically in those hard-to-staff areas such as transportation, ESP, school nutrition, MDAs, maintenance, custodians. We looked really hard at those pay rates as well. And finally, an increase in school counselors, with 2 additional school counselors joining the team, and moving our ESL program to add 2.5 additional ESL teachers to meet the needs of our English language learners. We had originally had 1 growth position in there, and through feedback for the board, we did up that to 2.5 positions. That'll move us from 31.5 ESL teachers this year to 34 full-time ones next year. We are still slightly under the state ratio with what we have now, so the addition of these additional positions will make sure, even with rapid growth, we stay under that state ratio and really put some money behind our students who need some additional supports. Regarding the proposed cost of living grades, we did make a 3% adjustment to our standard salary schedule to raise all steps a base of 3%. But I do want to remind those that are watching that we do have step raises built into our teacher pay scale, and that's an average about 1.25%. So overall, our certified staff will see an average increase of 4.25% from what they're currently making this year. And we did specifically address new teacher pay, which we're really proud of, to have our new teacher pay start at $45,000 to, again, make sure we're attracting the best new talent to Murfreesboro City.
Dr. Duke, a real quick question there. How many districts within maybe a 30-mile radius starts their teachers there?
So currently, I believe, based on this year's pay, there is only 1 other district that's doing that. I would expect that others would come very close to that, if not hit that next year, but we would still be in the top of beginning teacher pay, based on what we currently understand with districts around us.
Thank you, Dr.
Knowing that they're all working through the budget process as well. So overall, for our general purpose budget, we are looking at estimated revenues of about $93,793,367 budgeted. Our budgeted expenditures are $96,765,108, which means we will be pulling $2.9 million from our fund balance. As we discussed at the board work session, those are very conservative revenue estimates, so we feel very comfortable with that. And if we happen to use all $2.9 million fund balance, which has not been the trend in our district, then we would still have a healthy greater than 7% fund balance. As I mentioned, we're anticipating an increase in our state BEP funds, and county sales and property tax continue to come in very strong. Again, these are very conservative projections of what we've received so far. And just so we understand, this budget increases our revenues a little over $3 million and our expenditures of about $3.4 million. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but we are recommending approval of our general purpose budget.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. Any question or comment? And like Dr. Duke said, we have spent several hours with this budget, and I think most every question we could think of has been asked and answered. But
Just about. No, this is easy. In the reserves, the fund balance, we're showing the 2.9 million. What's that going to leave if we spend the whole 2.9 million? What's that going to leave us in our rainy day fund?
And I will get you the exact number. It'll be slightly over $8 million.
Okay, well, that's close enough. I just wanted to know, but there was still room in case we needed it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I believe the number we looked at last week was it'll be right around 8% in our fund balance, and our goal is, of course, 7%, so we're exceeding that.
Ms. Barton?
I just want to let the people know that, of course, weren't at our work sessions. Dr. Duke and the staff at Central Office did a fabulous job of presenting and explaining each section. So I I just want you to know that we were fully informed, I think, about every decision we've made, both this year and last year. And I just want to say that we appreciate all the work that you all put in, because getting ready for budget is no easy feat. And I know a lot of the principals have felt very heard this year. A lot of the teachers feel like that we've really listened to them, and I'm really excited about the budget.
I don't think anybody else could have said it any better.
I'm sure they could have, but
We have a motion and a second. Any other question or comment? If not, all in favor of adopting the general purpose budget for 2022-23, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Duke and the staff at Central Office.
Absolutely.
All right, the ESP budget?
We have just a few more budgets to look at, and again, these were all considered and looked at in our meeting as well. So with our extended school program budget, we're looking at anticipated revenues of $6,698,177, with budgeted expenditures of $6,586,303, which would actually add a little over $100,000 to our fund balance. I will point out with our ESP budget, the goal was really to continue to offer an excellent, strong extended school program while reducing the wait list for parents. We know that's something we've heard from our parents this year. Part of doing that is we did increase our hourly pay for workers to attract more workers. We have a retention bonus for those days when our students, or I'm sorry, I say students because many are college students, when our workers work a certain number of days. And what we're really excited about, and I want to give props to Ms. Powers, Mr. Ringstaff, and the entire ESP team for looking at this idea of providing funding for tuition for our education majors who are working in ESP each semester. That's going to be really powerful for a couple reasons. One, we want to attract education majors to our ESP program because that's what they're studying, and we know we'll give them a great experience, and hopefully we'll recruit them into our school district. And I believe I see Ms. Phillips sitting back there, and I point out because Ms. Phillips actually started in our ESP program and is now a principal in our district. So, that's when we need more Ms. Phillips, and we think this will help get us there.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have a motion to approve the ESP budget.
So moved.
I have a second.
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 Have we already done that?
I don't know.
I don't think so. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Nutrition budget.
Yes, sir. Our school nutrition budget has estimated revenues budgeted of $7,457,149, with budgeted expenditures of $9,495,834. That does move into our fund balance $1,994,021. I do want to point out with that, as this board is aware, we have a very hefty fund balance currently in school nutrition, and we are actually limited on how much we can have there. So dipping into fund balance with this budget is not only appropriate, but it's also needed to help spend that down to make sure we stay in compliance. This budget does adjust pay and add a retention bonus for our school-based nutrition staff due to the hard-to-staff nature of these positions, and it continues to support our farm-to-school program.
Do we have a motion to approve the nutrition budget?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Federal consolidated budget.
Yes, sir. Our federal consolidated budget covers our Title I and consolidated admin funds, our Title II funds, which cover professional development, our Title III funds, which help support our English language learners, and our IDEA B and pre-K funds, which address special education. You can see the amounts presented on the screen and in your board packet. For Title I and consolidated admin, it's a little over $1.7 million. For Title II, $366,011. For Title III, $164,553. And for IDEA Part B, $1,667,842 and $42,880 for pre-K. Our total combined federal consolidated budget is $3,989,285. We do expect that number to change slightly as this is projections, and we will get revised estimates from the state closer to the fall, but we are recommending approval of these budgets as presented.
Have a motion to approve the federal consolidated budget.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. 21st Century Grant.
Yes, Murfreesboro City Schools has applied for the 21st Century Grant through the state of Tennessee. This is a 5-year grant that we actually currently have as a district that expires at the end of this year, so this is a reapplication for that. The 21st Century Grant will fund after-school tutoring for 53 certified teachers and 530 students over the 5 years. The 21st Century Grant also pays for professional development, instructional supplies, teacher pay, staff pay benefits, and other incidentals related to implementing this grant. Our total funding request for the 21st Century Grant is $760,562 per year. And this program is run through our ESP department, and Ms. Powers, our ESP director, oversees this grant, and we are recommending approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. School Debt Service Fund.
The board is required to approve the debt service fund, which is used to account for funds reserved for the retirement of the district's debt. School debt is held by the city of Murfreesboro on behalf of the city school system. The expense of the debt service fund include principal and interest payments for bond and loan indebtedness for the city school property. Principal and interest is backed by the full faith and credit and taxing power of the city of Murfreesboro. This approval anticipates retiring over $4.9 million from the debt service fund.
We have a motion to approve the School Debt Service Fund.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, budget amendments.
Our first budget amendment is the approval of the FY22 Federal Best for All grant. Excuse me. This amendment budgets the new 2-year Best for All district grant of $350,000 for fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23 in the School Federal Projects Fund. MCS was awarded this additional grant money as a reward for being chosen as a Tennessee Best for All district. This award will be used to fund 9 intervention educational assistance and related benefits to address student learning loss as part of our Tennessee All-Core program, and we are recommending approval as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or comment?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the intervention EAs here, these 9, that is in addition to the ones that we just approved in the general purpose budget?
That is
or that's
part of the 20.
This is part of what's going into the general fund that we just
That is correct.
allocated? Okay.
Part of the requirements is that we as a district had to put a certain amount of money into the program, and then we received some matching money from the state. So we're using this grant to help produce some of that district money that we have the freedom to use it for.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Federal ARP grant amendment, yeah, you know.
Yes, sir. This amendment reallocates $8,300 of previously approved budgeted line items in our American Rescue Plan Special Education Grant to increase travel and professional development accounts from savings in the teacher account. The professional development transfer will provide funds to pay for the registered behavior technician training for best teachers and school level staff to help increase capacity. We are recommending approval as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or comment?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is an incredible use of funds that's going to pay dividends for decades to come.
Thank you, sir. I agree. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you, there is none. Payroll vacation.
Yes, sir. This amendment reallocates $21,884 to budget for a one-time vacation payout to a long-term employee, an adjustment to the salary for the payroll accountant, and an increase to the medical insurance line due to changes in employee insurance elections at January of 2022. The increase in labor and benefits will be budgeted from an additional local option sales tax revenue, and we are recommending approval as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Suttles. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Goff. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, reports and information, capital improvement update.
Yes, sir. In your packets tonight, you will see an update on several items from our capital improvement plan that are actually scheduled to be presented to the Murfreesboro City Council for approval on Thursday, May 5th. Each of these projects were included in our 2021-22 board-approved capital improvement plan. These projects are funded out of county shared bond funding, which is held and distributed by the city of Murfreesboro, but we did want to provide you an update on these that we will begin working on soon. First is the bleacher replacement at Northfield and Black Fox. On your sheet, you can see the vendor of who was awarded those bids, as well as the lowest bid price versus what we had initially projected. We're also looking at flooring replacement. A bid came in for Irma Siegel to replace carpet with some vinyl tile, as well as Mitchell Nilsson primary. And then I do want to point out the 2 bus purchases. We actually had 2 bus purchases as part of this current year's plan. We purchased one in the fall, so this is the second. However, we know they're in very short supply right now, and getting buses is very difficult. So we are actually working to go ahead. There's another one on the lot to go ahead and purchase the first of next year's buses now while we can get our hands on them. So this is for your information. And again, these bids will be formally presented to City Council on May 5th. I will also point out, I apologize, as you can see, and we discussed this a little bit in our budget meetings, these bids are coming in higher than we had originally anticipated. Obviously, we know with inflation cost and some of the supply issues that prices are higher. So what we as a team are doing, as we discussed at the board meeting, is once these are through, we will be getting new quotes to kind of reprioritize what we are working on with the capital improvement plan for next year.
Question.
We have a motion to approve the
I think it's just.
capital update.
An approval is.
Yes, we
You
need.
don't need an approval.
We can endorse it, I think, but I don't think we
We
have to
have a
approve it.
question, Ms. Moore.
I do have a question. I'm glad to see the carpet being removed from Irma Siegel. And it reminds me, I've heard from some people who work in some of our older buildings that there's some old carpet in some of them. I don't know how many, and was just wondering if that's, if we have a lot of old carpet in some of our older schools, if that's on the radar to pull that up, because I'm just thinking about years of children on carpet and what that could contain.
Yes, we do have several buildings that have carpet, and we are aware of those, and those are part of the plan that we endorsed over the 5 years. These are the 2 that our maintenance team feel like are most critical that we need to address right now. And part of that kind of quoting process will be these other schools that need that carpet removal. So that absolutely is on our radar, and Mr. Williford and his team are prioritizing which ones are most important.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. City School, I'm sorry, Ms. Goff, you have
No, I was just going to kind of piggyback off what Amanda said. Director Duke and I talked about that this morning. I've never really understood why we put carpet in schools with children. I know it's cozier and they get down on the floor, but the tile, I'm glad we're replacing that. That's all.
Vicki, you may remember, I'm sure Roseanne does, and I do, Trey does. It's kind of gone in cycles. Years ago, everybody, elementary school, you had to have carpet because the kids were going to sit on the floor, and you had to have, or rugs. And if you couldn't get a rug, you got carpet, or carpet got rugs. And then we changed because carpet was so hard to clean and keep clean, and we were having to massively shampoo in the summer times. So now we went back to the tile because you didn't have the, what was it that they said we had in the carpets?
Well, remember, we changed to those tiled carpets, that come in squares.
like
So that
rubber.
we could replace squares, because it sounded like a great idea at the time. And it wasn't a bad idea. It was, it probably just didn't turn out the way we thought it would. So that's why we're back on linoleum and tile.
All right. City School Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir. I am really excited about this, and I'm excited to announce tonight a new program that we're going to be starting in Murfreesboro City really over the next month with an anticipation to launch it next fall. What we know is that we have a really rich educational history in Murfreesboro City, and we wanted to find a way to honor and celebrate this excellence, and more specifically to honor and recognize those individuals, both teachers and non-teachers, support staff, bus drivers, that have made significant contributions to Murfreesboro City Schools and its students. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask Ms. Trail to come up and briefly discuss what we will be starting, which is our Murfreesboro City School Educator Hall of Fame.
So very excited to be leading this. I have met with some of our educators that have already retired just to kind of get everything together. We've looked at about 4 other school districts who do a very similar program and tried to take the best of everything. But this will be an opportunity for us just to celebrate just the excellence of Murfreesboro City Schools. We will have a committee. There will be eligibility standards that go into place. So this isn't just, hey, I think this person should be it. There's going to be a nomination process, and for a person to be nominated, they can nominate themselves if they want to, or they can be nominated, and then there would also be 2 letters of recommendation that go with that. We will create a committee to look at this, and if you've been nominated once and you don't happen to get in that year, that nomination will stay with us for another 3 years. So we would look at the following year and then the following year. After the first round, we are suggesting that we have no more than 12 members every year because we want this to really mean something. If you get into this Hall of Fame, you deserve in this Hall of Fame. There are some guidelines, and I think Dr. Duke may have shared this with you before. So you would have to be regularly employed with MCS for a minimum of 10 years. You would also have to be retired for a minimum of 5 years. So that gets us a little bit outside of that just who we know kind of category. And we'll also have the nominees in different categories. So you would have your legacy inductee, and the legacy would be retired before 1970. You'd have your traditional, and that's retired from 1970 to 2000, 1971 to 2000, and then our modern, which is retiring from 2001 until present, which would actually be 5 years ago, because you have to be 5 years. On my committee, just to get us started, I asked Ms. Sandra Parks and Minerva Smith to serve with me and to talk me through this and to look at guidelines. So we've had several hours of discussion about this. So we feel really good about kicking it off. We are ready to talk to others to get them on this committee and really tell people how to apply. So everything will be on our website. The application process will go through, so similar to like a Google form where you would apply, and then you would also, once again, they have to have those letters of recommendation. So we will be working with our local media, City TV, to get this out to our community. And we will obviously take retirees that are living or that may have been deceased.
Oh, good.
Because,
I was going to ask that.
When you have a legacy that's before 1970, they're getting a little bit up in age by now. So our timeline for this is to get it approved, or just to talk to you about it today, and we'll move forward with the nomination process beginning in the end of May through July. We will do our selection of the inductees in August, and we will actually do the recognition in September. So we have, I know this is the first you're hearing about it, but we have talked it through a lot, just so that we know what we're looking for, and we want to make this a huge success. The nominees will actually, or the inductees, not nominees, but the inductees will actually have a plaque on the wall inside of our Linda Gilbert Teacher Learning Center, and those will be rotated annually, and then a large plaque will be there for everyone who's ever been put into this, inducted into this Educator Hall of Fame. So again, we will have lots of committee meetings and make hopefully really good decisions, because I can't wait to see the nominees. Do you have any questions, or did that?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I really do. It's certainly whoever gets in there is well deserving, as you will know, because you'll have the applicants, or the nominees, I should say.
And I have to say, Dr. Duke came to me with this about 6 months ago and said, can we make this happen? And it's probably been one of the more fun, like just, not fun, but just exciting things to do, and to really look at who has made a difference in the lives of our students and in our city.
Okay. Thank you. Well done. Any other question, or comments?
No, just, I was going to say what you said, how great it is, because, I mean, they're mentors I had that I would love to recognize. So I just think it's so great that that would mean so much to somebody, I think.
We are so excited. Plus, it'll let us have the history of Murfreesboro City Schools back again. And that's one of the things that we can miss if we don't continue to remind ourselves, how did we start? Who's been a vital part of our legacy? And so we want to make sure that we do remind ourselves about those people that maybe we don't know, but someone else did, and they made a difference in the lives of our students then and still now.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next item, revenue and expenditure report for March. Ms. Williams?
Good evening, Board, Mr. Shacklet. And before you tonight, we have just a very brief presentation of our March financials for our general purpose fund. And I am pleased to say that once again, we are on the plus side, receiving more revenue and then expenditure, and with the intent, hope, and plan of increasing our fund balance, our unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. And again, I may sound like a broken record, and I'm pleased to say that as well. Our sales tax and our property taxes continue to come in very robustly. And if I look at the revenue comparison, that line number 1, the current property tax, and compare it to this time last year, and we're still about 11.5% higher than where we were at this point last year. And our expenditures continue to be consistent. And big picture, we're still collecting more revenue than expenditure. What you will see, we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year. There'll be some little cleanup amendments that will be coming your way in the near future. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I see nobody with a hand up, so thank you, ma'am, very much. Good report.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Personnel report.
Yes, sir. You have the personnel report in your packet tonight, and Mr. Ringstaff is available to answer any questions, should you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Ringstaff? All right, enrollment report. Mr. Marlin?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I'd like to share with you the numbers regarding our enrollment, and on the first page of the forms that you have in front of you. In the green line across the bottom of the page, our total enrollment for period 7, which ended on April the 11th, our total enrollment was 9,478. And if you notice to the box to the side, that's an increase of 478 students from the end of last year. That's only about 4 new students since our last reporting period. There's been some corrections, I think, in that. And one thing I noticed this period was that there more student movement, but in lots of schools you had 2 students move in and 2 students move out, so the numbers basically cancel each other out. But there was a growth of 4 students during that time period. On the next page, our pupil-teacher ratios. And let me slow down in case there's a question about any of that and any questions about the enrollment. But in our pupil-teacher ratios, if you notice at the bottom of the page, our PTR for kindergarten through 3rd grade is 18.88 students per teacher. For grades 4 through 6, it's 20.73 students per teacher, with an overall average of 19.48 students per teacher. and there's not much change from the last time period. Our next page, dealing with truancy, we note that for this time period, ending of period 7, we have 400 students who meet that criteria for being considered truant. That means that our schools and our administrators and staff are reaching out to parents and working with Elizabeth. And for some reason I can't come up with Taylor, but Elizabeth Taylor, working with Ms. Taylor regarding truancy court. So I don't know that we have that. Of course, we don't have that many that are going to court, but we have that many who are eligible, and our staff's working with them. And then the very last page is your chronic absenteeism report. Those students who have missed more than 10% or more for the time period covered. And at the end of this period, we had 1,428 students. And you all know my speech about our trends. There's a blip in our trend, and I think that's due to some of the reporting. We have some new staff that maybe were behind on some of the reports last month, and as we caught those up, that number actually dipped in the last period, but actually righted itself out, I think you would say, so that it's more in line with where we really are with the number of students who have reached that. I reviewed those numbers again this month and looked through that to verify that, and I think we're on target. Hopefully the number will decline over the next 2 periods, and fewer students will actually meet that 10% percentage, but that many are online at this time. And that's a report for this period.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Duke, Director's update.
I just have one update to say. First of all, thank you. I know the board has put in many hours over this month of April between budget meetings and all the other events we've had. So I want to personally thank you for that. But our only an update is that our state 10 ready testing is going on, and we are concluding this week. So second grade finished today, 3rd through 5th grade finishes tomorrow, and then 6th grade will be done on Friday. We've had a really successful testing experience. A special thank you to our assistant principals. They run that in the building, and Dr. George, our new coordinator of assessment, for his effort, and for all the students and staff. But it's been a really successful experience. So Ms. Arnett's team back there has been working very hard over the last 2 weeks, and so, but we are done as of Friday.
All right. I know everybody will be glad. Not only students, but teachers as well. All right. Any other business coming before this board tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Second, Mr. Settles, all in favor. Good night.
Good night.